What's up, YouTubers? This is Jay Dreamers, and I'm doing a video response to Jazz Sinclair for posing the question, are we in the rapture? Now, before I start going into sharing what has been shared with me, I want everyone to clear your mind about whatever strings are attached to that word rapture, and I'm going to be explaining it in a way that is a little more reasonable or scientific, you could say. I'm going to be doing a Brian Mullen on the rapture, okay? So, but please, whatever feelings you have or associations with that word, please get rid of them. That way we can focus on the information that's being presented. Without further ado, let's get right into it. The world that we live in, or the realm that we live on, is a third dimension or a third density realm. Density has a lot to do with vibration. So my hand is third density, third dimension. However, if I increase its vibration, as you can see, it starts to sort of disappear. If I could make it go faster, it would disappear. So the whole point of being here, and the point for souls, depending on who you ask, is progression. The progression of the soul or the spirit. It is to return to our Heavenly Father, or to the oneness, or however you'd like to describe it. But right now we are at the lowest point on the map spiritually in what is known as the third dimension or third density. So let's draw a map. We'll go ahead and make a circle as best as I can draw a circle. And this will be the third density or dimension. This is where we are. Now, I have to give you a story to go along with this. A long time ago, it is commonly known amongst many cultures, religions, and historians that our realm of existence was a blissful paradise. Now, that sounds great until you look into it a little further. You see, there was no evil, there was no selflessness, there was no selfishness. Everyone was selfless, everyone was loving, and there were no problems in the world whatsoever as far as a spiritual being goes. Now, this means that the beings that lived in this third dimension were now stuck spiritually. They could not ascend, or they could not progress to the next dimension, where the soul encounters a whole new school to learn, to take what it has learned and to progress even further. So these spirits that lived in the third dimension were stuck spiritually because they didn't know what evil was. By default, they were being good. So a spirit cannot progress by being good through default. It has to progress by being good or selfless and loving through a decision, through a conscious decision and an understanding of what they are doing. So, because this happened, other souls or spirits or beings were introduced into this third dimension. Okay? So, these other beings were plugged in, and their whole thing was to be bad. That's a not happy face, okay? So these beings were put into here as a solution to be the most evil, corrupt, and selfish beings that they could be, as an example to those who did not know what it was, so that those who were by default being good could now see what it was to be evil or to be selfish, and they could choose not to do that, and now their spirit can progress. Or, unfortunately, they could also choose to be evil and selfish, in which case there's a whole nother scenario for that. Now, once this was introduced, this realm of existence went from default positive to a mixture of positive and negative. vibrations, or we will say selfish and selfless vibrations. So now we have a mixture on this realm, and there is something known as the law of cycles or the law of time, which tends to go in cycles. Now, there is a time period in which the beings on this realm are supposed to ascend into the next realm, being the fourth dimension. All right, so we'll call this the fourth dimension positive. So when the time comes, we'll call it harvest time. When the time comes for the plucking of the souls here, and it's their time to now advance into the next realm or the next dimension, they will go, the positive ones go here. Now, I'm just going to throw out numbers, but they say it must be 51% positive. That's not an exact number, but it's somewhere around there, okay? So you have to be more than halfway good in order to advance to the next dimension, in which you will experience a sort of Jesus-like, Christ-like life. There will be very little negativity in this world, and you will work on performing miraculous feats and doing other things that the soul needs to do. However, for those who are mostly negative, they will go to a fourth dimension negative realm. So, if you're 51% positive or more, hopefully more, you go to the next positive fourth dimension realm. We'll say the negative realm has to be extremely negative in order to go to this fourth dimension negative realm. We'll say 95% negative, okay? So, the beings that are here that are 95% negative, when this harvest time comes, or when the time for advancement comes, they will absolutely advance, but they will advance to a fourth dimension or fourth density that is negative, in which essentially they will be working off their karmic energy that they have developed here. Now, those who have positive karmic energy need to work off nothing, so they move to the next lesson. This is a realm of working off your karmic energy. It is equal to this realm, but they serve two different purposes. All right? Now, what if you're less than 95% evil or selfish and less than 51% good? Well, this would be the lukewarm crowd. This would be those who really are just kind of just in there, didn't really learn too much. They weren't negative enough to go have their karma cleansed or their energy cleansed. And they're not quite good enough or selfless enough or loving enough to get boosted into this fourth dimensional positive world. So what happens to these people when this harvest time or this cycle renews itself? Well, as it was explained to me, they are transported instantly to an alternate. Can you see that? An alternate third dimension. All right. So, basically, in a nutshell, the good people or good souls or what have you, the souls that have built up enough positive and loving energy, advance to a more positive fourth dimension or density. The souls that were extremely negative or selfish move on to a cleansing fourth dimension negative. Those souls that were somewhere in between, that didn't get to either one of these, they will be transported to an alternate third dimension, which is, you could imagine it like a replica of our world that we live in today. So what will it be like? Well, for these people, the wishy-washy, lukewarm people, it is explained to me that they will experience a point of zero time in which they will have a blissful, amazing feeling of oneness with the universe, their creator, what have you. And it will be an instantaneous change for them into this alternate third dimension realm. Now, the veil of forgetfulness will immediately pass back down upon them. They will have no memory of their alternate world. However, they will continue on with the exact same lives, the exact same jobs, the exact same, everything will be the same. Now, there may be a discrepancy or a change in the physical appearance of the world, but they will not remember this either because of that veil of forgetfulness being cast upon them. They will basically move on as if nothing has ever happened, but they had some sort of mystical experience that resonates with their soul. In this experience, in this brief 0 point of oneness, is to be used as an encouraging reminder to their soul of the point of what they are there to do, which is to progress. All right? So it is a constant reminder. Now, the fourth dimension negative. I'm going to talk about that real quick. That's not supposed to be for the original inhabitants here, the ones who chose by default to be good, or the ones that were good by default. This is not supposed to be for them. It's not supposed to be for us. Let me try standing over here. Nah, I don't like that. So this fourth dimension negative, where you work off your negative karma or negative energy, this is supposed to be for those beings that came down to be extremely, extremely evil and selfish. All right? So these beings, in order to make it here, need to attain a 95% evil rate. I just made that phrase up, but that's what they need, okay? So, unfortunately, we can choose to go with them by being that bad, which it's very hard to be that bad. But there are beings in our world today, and I'm sure many of you in my circles will understand, there are beings in this world that are extremely selfish and extremely evil. Well, this is their destination. They want to go here, because if they don't go here, then they cannot move on from here to the fifth dimension or even the sixth dimension where they actually come from. So, what happens if those beings are not evil enough to make it here? Well, they can't go here to the positive fourth dimension. These beings that came in to be a catalyst for us, to show us what evil is, they cannot go here because their whole job in being here is to be the catalyst for us to know what evil is. So if they are good, they're not even doing their job, and they're going to stay here because they're not doing their job. So the only way out for these ones is to be extremely evil, go to the fourth dimension negative, work off their karma, and then move on, or probably go back to where they came from. Now, unfortunately, some of us, like I said, can go with them, but you have to be seriously messed up to go with them to this world. So, what you're shooting for is this world, not this world. You don't want to repeat all this all over again. I'm going to read something here. So, what can I do to attract more like-minded individuals to come together to uplift people? The most important thing is to not force things and not be so impassioned by your delivery of your message that you put people off the content of the message itself. There is a balance that needs to be found between your urgency to awaken others and your compassion for the lack of understanding in their condition. Always adhere to the law of free will and never force your message. So, I hope this helped you guys to understand the rapture in